Hello, guys. Welcome to PARACONOMY Inc. This is Professor Fun 101, Pervert Murderer. Here, about to go over a little bit of what has happened. So, to fill in any speculation for the day, go ahead and set it here, hit that like, subscribe, share, follow me on paraconomy.earth. Get a free subscription now to our blog and faireconomy.earth, excuse me. Anyways, we are here jamming out. Had a good start to the weekend here. It's 4:01 p.m. 4/5/2025. And we're just trying to sorp up some gold here. So in October 2022, um I had an experience that I'm trying to piece together on exactly what was going on here. We've already gotten a really nice speculation for how we got to some of these points, but I'll go ahead and open up this little bit of surreal sort of waking dream life that I sort of just waltzed into. Really very whimsically. I didn't really know it was really like this here in this city in Lansing. And as I went in it had to have been the beginning of October. It had to have been like the first week, if not like the last week in September um, of 2022. And I had downloaded TikTok for the first time, and I started surfing around on this part on Tarot Talk, and that started exposing me to this fortune telling gimmick that has resurfaced in the fad. Now, when I grew up, I'll give you a little speed up. When I grew up, tarot was on like like basic cable as like commercials for like late night by like Miss Cleo's tarot like uh, precognizant clairvoyancy, like telephone toll free like business where you'd call Miss Cleo and you would get your fortune read and she would do tarot. And so like that's what I grew up knowing about it, and it doesn't seem like it did the capabilities justice. And it's interesting how it's resurfaced into today's modern day usage because now YouTube has like a streamlined network for it, and it almost makes it into a more of a like a fad, like I said. So, but uh yeah, I didn't that's all I knew about it. I didn't know that much about it. And I think I downloaded TikTok like one other time. I've never used it for more than like a good like couple of weeks. I've never really used it for very long. And part of that has to do with basically how this part of esoterica got bled into my life as an adult here. Years, decades of not really interacting with it. Um, I know now. I grew up in the '90s when there were specialty shops, and so I have seen them and walked past several. I want to say we had one in my hometown for a second, but like. It wasn't. My mother was like, "It is we're Southern Baptists, on that side." It goes towards some Nazarene roots, and just very Protestant and a Catholic wash of things. My aunt married into Catholicism, and my cousin married into like some Judaism. So like that's kind of why I don't. That's all I have to go off of is sort of some of the things that I've spent time with family members and sometimes close family friends and stuff like that. And I remember like talking about uh like uh, like Ouija boards with my church with friends and my sister's friend group, because I was always like little tag along. So they would talk about like Ouija boards being like kind of like bad news. Like if you see somebody with a Ouija board, don't touch it, don't play it, just like walk away. So like that's something that I've always grown up like just being exposed to. And also because that's a big part, is that also got sheltered with like when I got into goth culture, when I was in kindergarten, um, that like basically I kind of started, pawing at it and being like, "What is this stuff?" But not once my mom put it on, she's like, "No, you're not gonna do any of that. So like, let's just move on, uh, get you into your prep clothes and your like basic worker ant lifestyle, so we can get you into a good job and you can be safe." Which, in hindsight, she meant well. So like that's kind of where like I that don't that's my exposure to it. And so some time passes, a lot of problems happen to me. And like every once in a while, especially when I'm like getting trippy, I've noticed that like I can talk to myself from the future, and like I can kind of I can tap in with this line of telepathy, that has basically, from what I understand, it comes from a lot of different findings on, like a lot of it led up to through like information, right? And so like the once smartphones became a big thing and you could track people, and the CIA, it blew up that the CIA was like spying on people's cameras on their phones and microphones and all this other stuff. It slowly surfaces in, like, I remember seeing when I would go to music festivals and stuff like that, when I was a big part of the popular, music kind of underground scene, that ended up getting it ended up kind of ruining some of this trend, for me, because like this trend surfaces very similarly along like the different mediums for music. And like it the first time I'd been exposed to some of this is like the people who sell pins at music festivals and stuff like that. They always have this thriftier thing, sort of hippie, really vagabond, like vagrant, transient thing going on. And like they're here, they're selling things in the parking lot, they make a little money, and they leave. So like that's like kind of where I'm under the assumption that this is like this is not like other moments that I've had that are like this part that I feel like the phone kind of activated here for people, and it got alongside with whoever is like um allowed into the club at all. Um People basically uh have this line of existence. So there is some sort of a divine time to things, and I've been in and out of the placation of this like kind of interaction on like man-made reality. And this is the part of the experience that I find I still to this day I'm thinking back to that. that October, and like how variable it adds into my like self-awareness, because what was going on was like I had downloaded TikTok, and it I started going through it, and it was like tarot talk, and like it was like warning me and trying to get my attention about um like future events or dangerous situations, and like it started warning me about like people coming at me to like harm me and stuff like that. And but it just like said, so you're getting gang stalked. Yeah. It basically said you're getting gang stalked, and then you're gonna be like teaching people. And so like yeah, and it kind of like said people are, yeah, it said there was one that said people are gonna feel real bad. You're gonna make people feel real bad, basically. And that's kind of how it, I going through it, it led me to have an experience like a video game state like um afternoon. I was like after I downloaded it, started getting like immersing myself in it, and like I called my mom about some of it and talked to her about it, and she was like, she because we've had one or two other conversations about it as in my adult life, but she's still indignant about it. She sticks to what she knows, and she says, delete TikTok. Go she's like, delete TikTok, throw out anything that isn't yours, and like burn some sage. And I was like, okay, that I'll roll with that. I was like, that's better than whatever I'm not getting from like what the experience was. And like I did. I went to This is how I went to this shop. Um uh, Shout out Oracle Apothecary. They are different. Okay. So like I went there. It's cool. It's cool at first. Just be careful. Um they they are very personable. So be careful. They can just jump on into your personal life. And I think this may be how some of this played out, because I ended up going to Thrift Witch, and she's really cool. I talked to her real quick, um, and I was like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me." Oh, well, like, hey, I was here, like, I'm looking for some sage. And she's like, "Oh, can go to Oracle Apothecary down the road." I was like, "Okay, cool." So I walked down the road, and that's where I met the one some of the shop owners, and they just work there or something, but like at any rate, it was pleasant, it was immersive, but like I also ended up having this part go in and out, and somebody just said whoop whoop, 4:14 p.m. 4/5/2025. Someone just said whoop whoop on the telepathic line over here. Excuse me. But this made a afternoon, and my it's like my phone started giving me missions to go run around and do. So this is why we've sort of branded some of it, and trying to make it more kind of uh capped off in a sense. I want people to be able to have directionality over it, and like be able to, speed up, slow down some of these more frail details on this sort of man-made interaction of reality, and how like reality has basically gotten, like, our government and like TikTok and all of this new age stuff is has gotten very like abundant in this part, it's like this candy culture. Once you get past like, and this is why I bring up music and my music festivals, because like there are like hundreds of people, thousands of people at some of these music festivals. And like that's not what was I was around get and was being like heavily discussed. So that leads me to believe that there's a lot of it that is resurging from some of that because people are like attempting to get in betweens, and if there's been like breakthroughs in science but people aren't really being disclosed a lot, that's why paraconomy exists. But like this is how it's supposed to be functioning too. Because if this stuff happens to you, you can bring it in and I'll go over it with you or someone will. And it basically it'll give you like a little bit of a better compass, especially if you find out it's in the moment. So needing to break through. My phone was like giving me like games to play almost. And it had me go um like back and forth between places, and it had me blessing lakes. It had me crash my car by accident alongside with like some of the weird voices that I started surfacing. Because I got a concussion after a little bit of a poor choice in my roommates sort of peripheral. Not very good decisions were made, and it caused this huge cause and effect where we got in a fight, and she left. But I got a concussion, and like right after, I heard somebody say no, and I started fighting her. But like right before I started fighting her, um, I heard like a conscience, like it was like almost like my consciousness, like an angel demon guy, my conscience, and like it was like somebody just said no. Now I wonder who or what that was because it told me not to basically get, but like dude, if that was all it was, then it totally didn't work. Yeah, somebody said no, and I heard it, but I haven't heard that voice, or I haven't also like heard that. Like I've heard some communication, but there's somebody who attempted to stop me, but did not talk to me about how they got here. And that was before I went to this shop and started getting like crystals and stuff. Nobody Nobody has helped me out ever since. And these people, a lot of women, have been attempting to make me look insane instead of sitting down with me and explaining what in the world it is that they've gotten involved with me in on. Because after I said no, it kind of antagonized the situation at all. Okay? Because yeah, so whoever is on the other end, and I've found a good handful of names, but they basically got me in a freaking way worse way with Cassie, and like I had to bounce her out. This was like the eighth or ninth time she'd try to hit me, push me. She was abusive. So like that's kind, and then I go to jail. Go figure. So like that's kind of like why it started to play out. And it's just been fucking utter hell. Excuse my language. Ever since then, it's been miserable. But my phone has picked up on whatever the frick has been going on. And that's getting in like all of this extra work into like my main story to like deepen my some stupid that like Zoomers are way too interested in and aren't telling older adults who are good enough to be talked to about it, but also just like selfishly keeping it to themselves. What did you expect? So like that's like a huge part because my other roommate Mars had been doing witchcraft, like dark witchcraft magic, and I'm like, hold on, they don't listen. So like they just went ahead and did a whole lot of personal magic to me and like the apartment and like didn't communicate anything about it and put it tried to cap me off a lot. So like that's pretty much a huge part of like how this thing got put in at all. And it's kind of why we're on to the next part of the lecture where I downloaded TikTok, got told what to do by my telephone, and it ended up crashing my. I had to bless a lake and collect a bunch of fucking stupid witchcraft shit. Excuse me. It's really annoying having to look back at how frigged up all of this has become in my life because I'm now getting evicted. I'm being controlled by a bunch of people who don't have my better interest and made several misjudgments and continue to like control me with this magical communication. So like that's kind of where they don't want to talk about it in the right way. And they're just sitting there in their guilt, embarrassed, trying to come up with something better. And it's cost me my car, 3 years of my life, jail, court, evictions, a ton of bullying, and just a complete and utter lack of encouragement to reach out and find answers. Nobody has been able to add into anything in constructive ways, and it's basically led down this part of my I'm displaced. I'm a displaced Hawaiian in Michigan. Okay, there's not a believe it or not, I don't have a ton of support here as a Hawaiian person, or as a brown person, or as a gay person. I don't have a lot of support as an artist. There's not a lot of artists out here. And that's kind of like a huge thing that's actually happening. It's a real problem, and it's kind of why I've been taking this part so seriously because I have faith that whatever it is I experience is very possible to have happen over and over and over and over again. Even though the world has like moved on from this whole anomaly that involve aliens, that and like all sorts of like ghosts and spiritual interactions with our planet and beyond. And this is kind of how human beings are able to like we're able to like kind of uh what's a good word to like intrinsically travel through this ability between this like material reality and this like more fictitious fantasy. And my phone had me do like a GTA 5. And I was like sandboxing in downtown Lansing here for October 2022, and it had me running around. A lot of people had me running around, and yeah, one day my it became more and more like an action movie, and it caused a lot of problems. And that's basically where um these voices were very indignant. They didn't nobody explain, and then they just took charge of my life. And I had to trust them, and they started to kill me off. Okay. These voices have been trying to make me homeless for the past, and they're just voices that I can perceive, but it's not because I'm schizophrenic. I'm like pretty with it. What it is, and what we're looking at here is like other people can hear the voices too. It's weird. But people are doing having this cord cutting voodoo and witchcraft that they've been able to like attach themselves, like, and then not really give a fuck about like how. So it's like they, and I don't think they know how to undo any of it. Um, and that's kind of how I've ended up with paraconomy as a big like staple in like why we need to study some of this crazy decision making, because it is choosing for you. This smartphone over here is big part of like this human antennae thing. And so like yesterday, and it'll be on Paraconomy Earth, I recorded my mushroom trip and tried to explain it. It gave a really good couple of lectures at where I'm at on it, and like really honest, immersive. You should go check it out. Um, and it basically, what I've explained is that we're basically like tethers for non-human entities to like portal through. And that's how exorcisms happen, and that's why some people need the access to this part of reality more than others. And so I've given a few over like a good lifetime of them, and I've been through some really intense spiritual psychosis. Um, and it's a lot of drug induced deliriums and stuff like that. And I've come back pretty snappy from most of these things. And it's still, I mean, there's still trauma on the inside. I feel it. And I know what type of monsters have like been able to access my chakral balances, or I guess akashics. So like that's kind of how we can't see them, but that shit's like a freaking like big ol' like open portal for like all sorts of things to find and beacon in and left and right. So I knew a lot about it, but that point in time, I didn't realize that stuff is being sold now as this kitschy cottagecore witchcraft lifestyle. Um, and it it's like this ugly kind of thing where you like have to give it meaning because it is of it's like it's materialism mixed on top of like natural law in order to give like a more organic, and it must have happened straight off in the 90s, because like that's when Al Gore and all this like eco-fascism kind of, as one of my neighbors put it, eco-fascism, it puts it into this part of like replenishing the planet and creating ties with it and growing mushrooms and stuff. Really cool stuff. But like it's also being flipped as an agenda, and often will be, as um how to start living your life. And so it's a huge part of how hipster millennials were able to get like marijuana legalized and like flipped into like the federalization of it and all sorts of new reclassification. But also then like the 1% Wall Street protest, 99%, like things that like were happening after that, so it becomes more socio-political. And so like I've been involved with this part, and that used to be kind of like every once in a while you might in experience, especially after you like party a little bit more, you might end up with a little bit of like a breakthrough, and like having this tapping into this energy of a waking dream. So like that's kind of where it starts to from what I understand, the government has a cap over a lot of it now. And they do it with the 5G satellites. And it kind of creates this bubble of basically selective like they figured out from person to person, with especially with telephones and Wi-Fi, that you can kind of reduce the signal of a human being. And that's basically how and what people are starting to wake up to, is that other humans have been doing that and are doing that. So if that's happening to you, bring that to Paraconomy Inc. At paraconomy.earth. We're doing civilian disclosure, and we're here to help teach people about, if this becomes a problem for you and you don't really get why, it's because we're evolving actually, and it's hard to talk about, but like they want to get humans to evolve, and they're trying to trigger certain, because they've found out that certain humans are evolving faster than others, and they're trying to figure out if they can initiate it on all humans, so that way it gets people to kind of work to their best advantageous like tools, and have a good tool set for life. So that's kind of a huge part of the rollout agenda on Project 2025, and how they've hidden a lot of it over the like, especially when they updated TikTok right before they inaugurated Donald Trump back into office, and it created a lot of people get it, but some people don't. And so like that's a huge difference in how um now today 433 4/5 2025, it's several years later from that, this very intense instance of how my life ended up turning into a video game for like a few days on end, and like it became like an action movie for a second, because I had backseat drivers thinking for me without being physically there, and now they're trying to justify, I'm assuming it's Grace Draminsky. I don't want to drop any names, but I'm assuming it's Marzo, and a huge part of how they were backseat driving for me for the past like 3 or 4 years, and they've also now gotten involved. They've all had like social lives for 4 years basically, and if they're heavy on the witchcraft and they're dead set on setting a standard for it, then it makes sense that they didn't know, because they didn't take the time to know, because they're lazy. Okay? These people are lazy and they're inconsiderate, and they'll use your insecurities against you. Be careful with some of the witchcraft community. They're young. And so like this is kind of one big reason why I figured once these roommates left, I tried to leave them on a really pleasant tune. So in case they ever needed to come back, until Cassie decided to assault me and then throw me in jail for it. And now I'm detransitioning, and it's a whole mess over here, because people are trying to live my life for me, but they're indignantly, like, unabashedly selfish with how much of the capacity of their distance in time, that they've been able to run away or time out the problem to get away from it, but it's like already surfacing. So like, yeah, people basically the phones will program you, and if especially if you're sharing cords with people, they'll intensify the amount that they'll ask you to do, and it starts getting color coded. There's math. It's a bunch of ridiculous. It's like the freaking like ACT or something. It's like some weird like analogous like test of like man versus society, and like these people all and now it's man versus man with these some of these screwball girls and their friends, and how the frick they go about dating people. Because like we didn't date, but we did live together, and this person's young. They might have been thinking, I'm gonna just date him anyway. But even though we didn't date, and like they kind of may have just put it on wrong because the other roommates not putting it on right, and there was a lot of telephone going on. So like I've become a real popular like person to like turn to in that like kind of lane of like needing assistance and a like friend. And people took it too far and abused that, like, that little bit of foresight. And once I tried to open it up, they don't have the time to understand how that works for somebody else, because they've adopted the leftist echo chamber and started defining themselves with echo chamber fodder. They're like, I'm autistic like this, and they lean on it as a crutch. So they can't be bothered to actually repent and give up some of the spirituality and sacrifice that unfortunately has been a huge part of what has appeared into here. Now, that person and these two girls and all of these girls, they all shop here. Okay? They all shop at that store, on and off. Not all of them, not all the time, but some of them more than others. And that's caused other people to get involved, and it's how some of these people are like going around and they're testing men, and they're like, what do you want? So like that's kind of like how like be careful if you're getting abused, and people you all of a sudden it's like people are throwing like mad shade at you. Please speak up. Bring it to Paraconomy. We'll try to take inventory of it, because like people are not as they used to be with this stuff. It's not just late night television tarot. It's become more of a hobby, and like they use it for stalking and other things like that. So be very careful. Because it got the government involved, and they kind of had me do some weird stuff too. And they've sent off-duty detectives and all sorts of weird stuff. So like be careful. I knew um about a lot of this stuff before it started happening, and there was a lot of alien kind of spirituality going into a lot of it with a lot of us millennials, and nobody really wants to talk to people about that like that. And it's kind of a big reason why, because some people more than others, it seems like it's just a part of becoming like trying to evolve again in humanity. Some people are going to be spread out faster than others because of how many different ways they've taken to produce a new type of human. So I'm under the assumption I've got some sort of special DNA. My investment for To the Stars has like relayed and rallied around some of it, especially on biomechanics and like basically alien tumors and Neuralink and nanobot technology and stuff like that. So like that's kind of another weird part about this is like this trick, so to speak, because there's some charm to it, and it's basically how we got to work around the whole facilitation of how the government's already able to do it, but then how human beings are starting to learn how to do it as well, and then never giving you your freedom. There's people, and they'll force you're down this video game life for a second, and they'll keep doing it until you die. So that, yeah, unless you pipe up and you start to like let them know that they made a mistake, because this stuff gets really spiritual and some of it's very permanent, and people aren't very good when it comes to dealing with that level of uh, intimacy. So, just kind of jumping away from that. Yeah, my life was like a video game. They had me skateboarding down like a really steep sidewalk, and like I messed up the ollie, and like I started getting razzed by like two people out like on a different sidewalk. And like the girl's like, God, you didn't make it? And then the guy's like, yeah, I probably wouldn't have made that either. But like I couldn't tell if it was them or not. And so now I know that the popcorn gallery is actually a big part of this weird spiritual cord tethering, and how we're able, some people just have a better facilitation for it than other people. But be careful. These people will and get caught up not knowing who you are and why they're getting attached to you, because it's just clever. It's cheating, and it's not a it doesn't really it's cheating. You're basically cheating somebody away from some of their divinity. So like this is a huge part in like why it can beef it can you can get some it can beef, yeah, you can get some facilitation from the 5G towers and stuff like that. But if you find out that it's not just tarot and TikTok and stuff, and that there's actually people attached, or even aliens or angels or demons, huh? Huh? Aliens, angels, demons. If it's any of these things, uh, give us a call at Paraconomy. Go visit our website, paraconomy.earth. And just food for thought, you guys. There's a whole immersive, multiple dimension realities that we can access beyond some of the understanding of where we're at with today's technology, and the coercive nature of being uh, at the top of your game. And so like yeah, we're evolving. Keep an eye out for that and new exciting humanities sort of cutting room edge of what we have going on for future. And yeah, take it amongst yourselves to go evolve, go figure out how to make it work, everybody. um on that note, I'm gonna get you guys on to the next level. You guys have been great. I hope I see you guys soon. The time is 4:43 p.m. Sad be bunny. I'm broke. Professor Fun.